Now that we've conducted research on our speech's topic, it's time for us to take that research and use it to support our arguments. So today we are going to be talking about supporting the ideas within our speech and building those arguments that we want to make. So why do we use support? First, it's always important for us to define our terms. Support is the range of strategies that are used to develop the central idea and specific purpose of a speech. Another word for support is evidence, and without this support, your speech is really just a lot of fluff. It's just you making assertions without anything to back you up. You're not actually making arguments. So our support provides us with a foundation for our speech. It provides us with a really solid base that we can then build our speech upon and build our arguments and really structure our ideas in a really defined way. Another reason that we use support is to help clarify our content. So we use things like definitions, like the definition of support, to make sure that our audience understands what we're talking about. We use examples so that they know what something is and what something isn't. So it really just helps to make the message as clear as possible. In addition, we use support to add vividness to our speech. Using things like narrative, for example, or anecdotes, can really help to make our speech more vivid and make our audience more willing to listen to our speech. Because if they are able to picture the world of the speech, they are going to be much more interested and invested in that world. We also use support to add credibility to our speeches, or rather to add credibility to ourselves. Because remember, credibility exists within the mind of the audience. It doesn't exist innately within ourselves. And so we use this support to show the audience, hey, I've done my research. I know what I'm talking about, and you should definitely listen to me. Having cited evidence and being able to tell the audience where you got your information from is only going to help them view you as more competent as well as more trustworthy. And so parts of our credibility include accuracy, authority, currency, as well as objectivity. So when audiences look to our credibility, they are looking to the accuracy of the statements that we are making. And really, one of the quickest ways to lose credibility in a speech is to have incorrect information. So you need to make sure that when you do your research, that you get the most up-to-date, the most current information and the most factual information that you possibly can so that you seem like you know what you are talking about. Another way to add to your credibility is to make sure that you use support that it comes from authoritative sources. So you're looking for experts on the topic and you're citing their expertise to help back up your arguments and ideas. Because someone else out there has incredible amounts of knowledge about the topic that you are talking about. And you learned about your topic from them, so you have to tell your audience where you got that information from, and let them know why that person is an authority on your topic. As I was saying earlier, you have to make sure that your information is the most current possible as well. A general rule for most topics is 5 to 10 years, but for some topics it has to be much more recent than that. For example, if you are doing something in the technology realm, or in the health realm, or even in politics, you have to make sure that you get the most current and up-to-date information so that you don't accidentally tell your audience something that is years and years old and that is no longer true. And finally, you want to make sure that your support is objective, or as objective as it possibly can be. There's a lot of bias in a lot of different sources. So you have to make sure that you are getting your information from sources that are not trying to spin a story. You have to make sure that you are getting your sources from places that don't have prejudice or that aren't toting their own opinions or thoughts. And there's a bunch of questions that you can ask yourself when you're looking to the objectivity of a particular source. For example, does the source represent an individual's or an organization's standpoint on a particular issue? Does it sound like it's unfair or anything like that? Does it have any political or financial interests behind it? So there's a lot of different questions that you can ask yourself for each of these pieces of credibility: accuracy, authority, currency, objectivity, to make sure that you are getting the best information that you possibly can. So I highly recommend that you go to your textbook and take a look at those questions that you should ask yourself whenever you are looking at using a piece of support within your speech.